All right, today I have Kaili Ets, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. We have an upcoming webinar coming at the end of this month, November 19th, and I'm super excited. So, Kylie, go ahead and tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me today. This is an exciting talk because I love running my mom and baby classes. I guess we could call them parent baby classes because sometimes I have moms come in, dads come in, grandparents come in, all the things. But I have been an OT since 2007. So what is that, like seven? I don't even know how many years that is, like 18 years or something. A long time. And always worked in pediatrics. When I had my first child 10 years ago, is when I really went into the mom and baby space because I realized that as an OT who had all this infant development, child development, like knowledge, I had worked in pediatrics, mainly like the 3+. And I thought I was ready for motherhood, and motherhood really rocked me, and I didn't have really any good support, or felt like I didn't have really any good support. My baby didn't sleep well. He had reflux. He hated tummy time. All the things that I thought I needed to do, I couldn't get him to do. And it was just really stressful, to the point where I felt very isolated. I was comparing my son against all the other babies in all the other baby classes. It was stressing me out. And I decided that this could not be my reality, and I didn't want it to be the reality of other moms as well, many of whom have never even held a baby in their lives before becoming a mother. So I really felt like this was a big missing piece in our society of supporting moms and babies. And as I started to do more work in that space, I realized that OTs really are such a huge asset to that space because we cover such a wide range, not just for babies and toddlers, but also for moms and parents in general. So that's sort of just a little bit about me. Over the last 10 years, I have dug into all the things baby, toddler related, from tongue ties and reflux and sleep and more infant development, craniosacral therapy. I'm now in school for osteopathy, like all the things. So I know a lot about babies, and OTs are still very, very well suited for working with this population, 100%.
I agree. And I love that you said not just mom and baby, because in our collective webinars that we have every week, people have been talking more about dads. And it's something
Mhm.
that's weighed on my heart in the last few years too. What about dads? Because moms need our support. The whole postpartum space is lacking
Mhm.
in care, just altogether. And we're talking like moms, let's help moms. But then that other layer on top of it is dads too. What about dads or other caregivers or even grandparents? So I love that you said that as well, because these classes, maybe even like changing wording of classes so
Mhm.
dads feel welcome to come or grandparents feel welcome to come or any caregivers feel welcome to come. So I love that. I would say, what is one of your, I know you mentioned sleep, but do you have a
Mhm.
specific mom moment that made you think OTs belong here?
Oh my gosh. I don't know with my own because my own was like my teacher. I feel like everybody, all the OTs that I have met that are in the mom baby or parent baby space have all started with their own journey and kind of started filling in the gaps. And I think for me, probably the biggest one, yes, it was sleep, but I would say the tummy time piece, where I knew that it was so important for development. We did tummy time and I pulled out all the tricks in the book, and my son still screamed and cried and was so uncomfortable in tummy time for so long. Um, and I felt like I was doing something wrong. And that was really a not nice feeling. And so that's sort of what stemmed me to start learning more about, these different pieces related to babies. And each piece kind of then opens up a new rabbit hole, so to speak. And then I jump into that one, and then something new opens up. So I've really created my own path in as an OT in this space. I've had people ask me before at clinics that I've contracted out to, like, well, do you know anybody else who does what you do? And I'm like, well, not exactly, because I have my own skills that I've kind of just made and learned along the way. But I would say it was the tummy time piece because I knew it was so important and I could not, for the life of me, figure out how to make it easier for my son. And that was a big eye-opening experience. Like, okay, all the things that I learned are great in the textbook. And what about in person? Like actually doing the things, actually supporting the development, actually supporting the sleep. And then the second big realization was when I did a sleep certification, and it was not a sleep training certification, complete opposite, very attachment focused. And that certification opened my eyes of like, oh my gosh, how had I not been focused on the attachment and connection piece in my OT career before that? So that was a big eye-opening moment for me as well, where like, wow, it really goes so much deeper than what we learn in school and like I guess what we have on the surface in terms of surface level skills. It's so much more than that. And so now I really focus a lot on that nervous system regulation piece for baby, for parent. How do we work that all together? And how all these different pieces are all linked together. And really at the core is that nervous system, the attachment, the connection. And if you
Yes.
just take anything to focus on, just focus on those and your baby will be fine for the most part, right? Obviously, there's
Yeah.
other skills that you can work on, but when you have that foundation, it makes life so much easier.
I love that you said like you're just about your path, like your journey, because I think you started somewhere and you've grown.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've added, you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my goodness, I want to learn more about this and I want to learn more about that. And I'll do this for my CEU. And that's something that I've talked about a lot is I started in sleep. Like that is like, I'm really good with infant sleep. And then I was like, well, wow, like these things matter too. I want to learn more about this. So
Mm-hmm.
that would bring me to this question. So, why do you think that OTs hesitate to start in this space?
Probably the same reason I struggled with at the beginning, where you feel like you know so much, and how in the world do you actually condense it into a 60-minute class, for example, without overwhelming parents? And how do you bring that knowledge into a fun, safe space where you can still teach the things you want to teach, but not get too like educational, right?
Mm,
So I think that's that was a big kind of imposter syndrome moment for me. Like, well, how in the world am I going to teach all of these things? And why would I be the one to run the classes? How am I going to bring all this knowledge and create this program or this series of classes so that it benefits moms or parents, so that I can teach what I want about the babies in terms of development, in terms of sensory processing, in terms of primitive reflexes. Like there's so many umbrellas that OTs have a space in, which I think is the cool part about OTs in this postpartum kind of space, is that we do have this huge umbrella of topics that we can talk about and support and educate on and help with. Um, and that's the beauty, I think, of bringing the OT's perspective to parent baby classes, because you do have this wide range of skills, this wide range of knowledge, and you can bring it into the space where even if you don't know all the nitty-gritty details of, let's say, like tongue ties or primitive reflexes or whatever, you have the skills to identify, oh, that might be going on. You should go see XYZ, right? Um, versus other more specialized classes like baby sign language or baby music or intro to solids or whatever it is, have one very specific focus. The classes that I run are broad. They're focused on infant development, and we do like motor milestones and all of that, but it's so much more. And I embed so many things in without the parents necessarily needing to know, like, oh, we're working on this primitive reflex right now, right? Um, so it's kind of a fun space to be in. And yeah, I don't remember what your question was. I probably answered it, but also went on a tangent.
No, you're fine. It was good. So I was asking why like people with OTs would hesitate to get in the space. And I love how you brought up imposter syndrome because I think that can also play into thinking you just need to keep learning more. Well, if I just
Hmm.
learned this, I would be good enough. Or if
Hmm.
I just learned that, I would be good enough. Or this person does this and I could never. But we have to push that aside
Hmm.
and not let that stop us because this space is it's growing, but there's
Hmm.
still so much need everywhere, all across the country, Canada, United States, literally everywhere. So there's
Hmm.
space for all of us here. And I think that, starting a business from scratch and trying to build up your clientele it's a task and it takes time. Starting any business can take time. Reaching out to people to try to find a space within their clinic for that is also another
Hmm.
area that can take time and meeting people and showcasing why we're important. And this is why I've been talking a lot about classes. We've talked a lot about
Hmm.
group classes, how it can be a great way to start getting into your community and
Hmm.
showing people your value, starting to build rapport and them starting to trust you and
Hmm.
people starting to refer you out and ask you questions.
Yeah.
And it can guide you as to like, what do people need? What do I want to learn more about? What questions can I jump into? Our Facebook group, the Postpartum OT, or other
Hmm.
Facebook groups that are for maternal health and stuff, and ask these questions and get the answers that you need. So I love that we're doing this webinar so you can share your experiences with hosting these classes for families and their new babies while they navigate this, manual free complete life change and try to figure out what they're supposed to do. So it's a great way to bring them into the space. So I don't want to keep you too long, but to kind of go on the mom and baby class thing or mom and, caregiver class, whatever we want to call it. How would you say, like when you first started to like kind of how it's progressed, like how do you feel it's going for you? Is it something that you feel like is successful for you?
Hmm.
Like getting into it, like what does that look like if somebody were
Yeah.
to do that?
So I will be honest, and this is probably another thing that maybe stands in the way of therapists from starting to run these classes. I had never run like a group program before in my OT career, at least not by myself. And so jumping into that group class format was really scary initially. Like, what if I don't know what I'm talking about? And what if they like just sit there and I forget all my words? And like, what if no one comes? Like all of those questions, right? And I still to this day remember like I had no clue about business building when I first started my business, and running these classes was one of the first things that I did. And I remember walking in my neighborhood in Toronto with my son in his stroller, and I had printed out flyers that I like taped onto telephone poles and like the light poles and like all the things, like super old school. I had made this flyer on my computer. Like I look back at now and I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? This is like way before Instagram. like, um,
You did
and
what you thought would work. So
yeah, and so that very first class series that I ran, it was in a yoga studio where I rented the space. I had four moms show up with their babies, and I was so excited and also really nervous. And like I had my notes with me, and they knew it was my first series, and it was a lot of kind of trial and error of how do I lead certain, exercises. Did this work? Did this song work? Like I had the song lyrics printed out because I couldn't remember all the words, like everything, right? And they loved it. They loved it. And none of them knew each other before. And after I think the second week, they started going out for coffee after class, which for me
aw.
was like the ultimate goal is yes, you're teaching these parents something, but actually what you're doing is you're building their village of support, right?
Mhm.
And so when they start to connect outside of class, that is like, okay, job well done, right? When they start to bond with their baby slightly differently or reading their baby's cues better, job well done, right? Um, so after that, that was like 9.5 years ago. Since then, I have run my classes all over Toronto Now I am in Hamilton, so I run them in Burlington, which is close by. I've run them in yoga studios. I've run them in the bottom of like maternity stores. I have run them in women's health clinics, chiropractic clinics, like pretty much anywhere that was willing to like rent me some space that also had kind of the same clientele base.
It could be
And
mutually beneficial for them as well.
exactly, exactly. And they are pretty much sold out almost every single session. I used to only run them twice a year because it took so much effort for me to do the marketing and the filling of the classes and all the things. And I had young children. Now I run the 6 week series every 8 weeks. So I have 2 weeks in between each series just to allow for illnesses or snowstorms or whatever might happen if we have to postpone the class by a week or take a week off or whatnot. Um, Vacation, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, and so my classes are pretty much sold out. I would say on average, I take home after paying, because I do like a split percentage with the places that I run my classes at. I take home anywhere between 200 and 250 per hour per class, right?
Which is great. Most
So it's
OTs don't
great,
make that
which
much,
is great. Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I document, but it's all templated. And this is the thing that I have, like I have a Babies at Play running mom and baby classes made easy course for professionals as well, which I will briefly talk a little bit about in this free webinar. But that's one of the things that's part of my course is like templated documentation, templated like lesson plans, so that you don't have to do the guesswork. You can literally cut and paste and put it in wherever you need to put it in, right?
They can print
Emails,
out
I
your
send,
songs.
yeah, exactly. I have all the song lyrics, like I have me demoing different exercises and how I teach it and all the things. So it's literally like a plug and play course where like you do not have just watch it and you'll be ready to go. Years and years and years of me really refining it. Even now, right? I've run the course for so I've run the my class series for moms and parents for so long that like you get bored of your own material at some point. So I'm constantly like trying to update, like, okay, well, I'm kind of bored of that song. What song should I do next? Or like, what activity could I add in? The more I learn, I add in new activities. So it's kind of an always evolving thing for me. Even though I do run each series very similarly. So I have a level 1 class lesson plan, which is like 0 to 5.5 months. I have a level 2 class lesson plan, which is 6 to 12 months. And then I have a toddler one too, which I just revamped because I've finally started running the toddler classes again. There has been some interest for that, which is exciting because they are so cute when they're like
Oh, I
14,
bet.
15, 16 months old and they're just like, it's so sweet. Um, but yeah, so this webinar that we're doing really is meant to, chat a little bit more specifically about why OTs are so I guess well suited to run these classes, what my classes sort of look like, what kinds of things I teach in there, why the kind of therapist-led class is maybe a little bit more beneficial than just, the niche kind of classes. And yeah, we'll chat about some mindset barriers and just some tips and tricks to get you guys started. And yeah, it's going to be a jam-packed webinar. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm super excited as well. And just to jump back just a little ways to the beginning of when you first started talking about your classes, and you were saying how you had your printed out words and you didn't really know what you were doing, but you let people know like this is my first time, and you just kind of, went with the flow and figured it out, and people were okay with that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to remind everybody that perfection is not required.
Nope.
People don't expect you to be perfect. People don't expect you to come in and have it done just so. They're just happy that you're there, that you're giving into their life, that you're supporting them. And like if you live your life waiting until you're perfect, you're probably not going to get that thing done because
Mm-hmm.
you're still refining your classes to this day and changing things and adapting things. So the process of doing is learning and building and growing. So I love that you've had all these experiences with the classes
And
and
I'll throw this in there too. Even now, 9.5 years later of running these classes like all the time, every single time a new group of mamas, parents come and the new series starts, that very first class, I am so nervous still. And it's just one of those things that, like, the more you practice going in nervous and doing the thing that scares you and doing the thing that makes you nervous, the easier it will be to just show up. Um, so I'm not immune to it either, even though I've been doing this
Mhm.
for so long, even though I'm running this webinar, even though I have a course teaching professionals how to run these classes, I still get nervous. I still sometimes forget my words. I still mess up the lyrics. It's okay. It's
And I can see
okay.
that because even the like one-on-one support with clients, when I get a new client, like I have a client and things are good, I start to figure out the client, things are going well, and then I get a new client and I feel nervous because I'm like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know the family, I don't know the
Mhm,
baby, I don't know like, is there going to be something that I don't know how to support them? Are they going to see the value in me? So you kind of start to question yourself,
mhm,
but you get in there, and I feel like just going in there with those nerves, but allowing yourself just to read the room, see what's
mhm,
happening, let people ask their questions, and watch the interactions between the mom and the baby, the family, whatever it might be. It just starts to guide you. And
mhm,
I feel like that'd be kind of the same way with the baby classes.
mhm,
You kind of start to see, like, what does this specific group need? What does this specific
mhm,
combo of mom and baby or dad and baby or family
mhm.
need? And you just fall into place, and it just
Yeah.
happens. So
Yeah. And I
I
think
love
we
that.
do that well as OTs also, that we can kind of go with the flow and we can change course if we need to, kind of on the fly, because we're so good at doing that analysis that we can read the room and be like, oh, okay, well, this group needs a little more work on XYZ. So let's focus, the next session will be a little more focused on that. I'll chat a little bit more about that, even if you kind of go off script, right? I think OTs are so good with that. We have a lot of good skills, and I think that sometimes we forget what those skills are because they just seem like it's common sense. But it's
Yes.
not.
No.
It's not common sense.
Oh, and
So,
that's what I tell everybody. I'm like, you have way more knowledge and skills than you're giving yourself credit for. You went to OT school. You literally have, a bachelor's, master's, doctorate, whatever it is at this point in
mhm,
time in your career. You have that education that other people don't have. Plus,
mhm,
you have your other knowledge and life experiences that led you to this passion, and add all those together, and you're already well equipped to do this. Now, like you were saying earlier, your path has been like this, where
mhm,
they can do the same thing and let their journey take them on this winding path as they learn new things and figure things out. So, this webinar is going to be super exciting. I'm really happy that you're doing it with me. And I can't wait for you to share everything. And I will definitely drop the link in the comments, and people can get their self registered. It's free. So you don't have any
mhm,
obligation to pay, which is a bonus.
mhm.
And you'll get to learn all the cool stuff from Kaili about her classes for families after they have a baby.
Yeah. I want to just end with the fact that these classes, even 9.5 years later, are the biggest moment of joy in my entire week. I love working one-to-one also, but these classes bring such a big smile to my face, and I just get so filled up in terms of my own cup, I guess, so to say, in terms of that. So hopefully it will also be like that for all of you. Yeah, it's a great way to share your expertise with a large volume of clients who might not necessarily be able to access your services one-to-one on a
Yes.
normal basis.
Yes, that's such a good point, because it can be out of reach for so many people, but classes can make it more
Hmm.
affordable or easier, or it can be more comfortable for people.
Hmm.
Like, people might thrive more in that group
Hmm.
community versus just being by themselves. So they create friendships and
Yeah.
learn from one another, and they don't feel alone. So
Hmm.
super excited, and we will see everybody on November 19th.
Perfect. Thank you.